Hashtag Doggy People with Phil Lassman.
Hello, it's me, and welcome to Hashtag Doggy People, the show about life, love, and dogs. Now, welcome back to part 2, and I've got to say, Peter Egan and Mark Abram are doing a sterling job presenting this review show. Please enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end of their show. When I decided to interview my next guest, I thought, hang on a minute, Phil. Hang on, there could be implications. But I did. And the lady I'm referring to is, of course, Ira Moss of the very well-known charity All Dogs Matter. All Dogs Matter.
The best part is seeing dogs coming in, or animals coming in, looking really sort of depressed, shut down, who you can see in some cases just think that they've kind of given up because they've been passed around so many times, they lose sort of trust and they literally just break down. But then seeing them go off, and then new owners sending us photos and updates and coming to our events when we have events, and seeing them again, sometimes they metamorphose into a different animal, they just look so different.
Now, Peter, I don't know who knows her better, to be honest with you or me. I really don't.
I'm sorry. Who are you talking about? Yes, Ira, brilliant. But, as you know, Phil, I was in right at the very beginning of All Dogs Matter.
Yeah.
They used to come to our house in Hampstead and have their meetings in our kitchen, and they were running things from their cars. Really, they didn't have a base as they do now. And it was just the beginning of what has become a wonderful charity. And what impressed me was the fantastic passion from all the 4 people. I mean, an awful lot of blood was spilt over my kitchen table in those days.
I know.
What impressed me out of all of the 4 was how Ira always kept very, very cool and very practical. And I felt that she was very, very much the leader of the group. Come the time that they were putting All Dogs together as a charity, and they asked me if I would be chairman, and then when we applied for charity status and be a trustee and a chair of trustees, I was delighted to accept it, because I mean, you just couldn't question the amount of passion and work and commitment and foresight that was put into this charity, even at the very, very early stages, because they were also learning. The thing that amazed me in those days, and I'm talking about 10 years ago now, they were rehoming more dogs per year than the Dogs Trust. It was extraordinary, the work and how they did it, and they were doing it with care and attention and home checks. It wasn't arbitrary, here's a dog, fling it out the door. They just did phenomenal and continue to do phenomenal work. And I think it's 10 years that All Dogs Matter has been up and running now.
11 years.
11, it just flies, doesn't it? And now they have a fantastic team. I just am delighted and very proud to have been there at the beginning, the middle, and still there now. And I'll be there for as long as I can walk and talk, basically. It's a great charity.
Bless you. Thank you, Peter. Mark, I know that you've always supported Ira, always been there for her.
Yeah, when you see the work rate of some of these smaller charities like All Dogs Matter, it's mind-blowing, because it's just passion making stuff happen for the dogs and their owners. It's as simple as that. And it's so single-minded in the nicest possible way that you know, as a campaigner that's dealt with all sorts of charities in my campaigning lifespan, to see charities actually just getting on with it and not having these mental salaries. Everything goes to the dogs. The success stories.
No.
They're not cherry picking the dogs. They're dealing with some really difficult dogs as well to rehome. I obviously can't speak more highly of Ira and All Dogs Matter. And also, she's always at the end of the phone and ready to get involved. And there's been situations where I've, for example, needed in the nicest possible way some rescue dogs to come to Downing Street. She's always able to sort of drop everything and do it. And it's not because she wants to be involved in the TV show or to come to Downing Street, because she wants to promote rescue dogs. Again, I'll do anything to help them as much, and they've helped me out with my campaigning. And again, it's this reciprocal energy where everybody helps each other, because ultimately that benefits the animals. So and she's a really perfect example of that.
Thank you so much. I mean, the two of you I know are so valuable and so highly revered by Ira and everyone at All Dogs Matter. I came into it because of my relationship with Ira, and of course we've been married now for 23 years. The Ira that you know and the Ira that you see is the Ira that I see every single day. One thing about Ira, she is purely consistent. She never changes. She doesn't have a different face or a different mood for you or you or you. She is the same person every day. Her only objective is to do the best that she can for rehoming dogs. Her passion is quite extraordinary.
And she rehomed you, Phil, didn't she?
Yeah.
Well, she did. She sent me to Coventry, actually.
Has she socialised you now, Phil? Are you
Clearly not.
Not really. No, I'm not allowed to meet anyone. She keeps me in the back room.
It's also worth noting the dog shows that you guys put on, the one by the bandstand and the one in that pub. You know, the work, I mean, I know obviously from Pup Aid, the work that goes into putting those events on, they're just brilliant events. You know, everyone loves being there. They raise money, they raise profile, they raise awareness, and that takes a lot of work, and that definitely needs to be highlighted as well.
Now, my next guest, one of my favourite charities, it really is. I've been there. I've been to Morocco to see their operation there. I'm talking about the wonderful charity Spanner, or as you call it, Peter, Spanner, in which I interviewed one of their directors of operations, the really lovely Ben Sturgeon.
We oversee the delivery of veterinary projects in country. We also oversee the delivery of education projects. We oversee community training, we oversee advocacy actions, and we also oversee emergency actions. So we have a multiplicity of projects and activities that we oversee. We try and treat animals, we try and train people who are involved in those animals, and we try and teach children and young people to develop. We're a team of 8 people, but we oversee projects in, I think it's now just over 30 countries, and totaling a number of projects, it's probably around 60 to 80 projects globally.
Peter, tell us what your views are on this outstanding charity.
Well, you can say tomato and I'll say tomato. You can say spanner and I'll say spanner. I'm not quite sure which it is. I just throw this in. I'm also a patron for them. And I have
what a coincidence.
I think they are a remarkable, remarkable charity that in places like Morocco and how do we describe countries that are developing countries, if you like, where their animal welfare commitment is a very low priority. They go into these communities and they teach them how to get the best out of their working animals, particularly donkeys. Spanner will go into a community and they will teach the owner of a donkey how to get the best out of the donkey by giving the donkey some enrichment and some care and attention. They are introducing very, very important animal welfare and animal right imperatives to all of these societies. And they do it with great care and with great outreach and with a huge understanding of the problems within the indigenous population as far as animals and people interacting in those societies. And so I think they do remarkable outreach work. And I think they are developing care, compassion for animals in a very, very positive way in places that need it very, very much.
I'm also a patron of Spanner.
Spanner. All
of those charities I'm patron of. In fact, Peter and I are on their list of people that they're going to take out, I think, to Morocco. Just to see firsthand what they do. I just think again, it's when you're dealing with cultural differences, societal differences, working animals, not pets, raising awareness of sentience, really. It just takes a lot of courage to go into these places and start effectively telling people, A, what they need to do, and B, that they've been doing it wrong. As Peter says, they do it with a sensitivity and a respect that makes them successful, makes them respected as an organization. And I think, again, it boils down to relationship building. If you build up a relationship with people that you may have appeared hostile or cruel to animals beforehand, and you can reach them and educate them and build bridges, that can only be a good thing. And anyone that does that, again, they're just a phenomenal charity, because they get results, and it's not about the money. None of those charities on your list or the individuals are motivated by money, and that is really refreshing in the environment and the world that we live in. And I look forward to hopefully being able to do something constructive to help them with my fellow patron Peter.
What I learned from talking to Ben, who was a really lovely chap, is that Spanner, they are also very involved with bringing funding and items of PPE to far-flung corners of the earth. They do a tremendous amount of sort of rescue work for humans, and they also they're very involved with education. In some countries, as Peter was saying previously, where animals are, certain cultures are taught to encouraged to harm animals because they don't know any different. When I was at their compound in Morocco with Ira, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago now, I was actually bowled over by the amount of different animals that they actually look after, they care for. Camels and donkeys and horses and dogs and all sorts of different things. They are truly a remarkable outreach charity. So I was absolutely honoured to have them on the show.
I've just looked up the pronunciation of it, and it is Spanner.
Are you meaning to tell me that I've beaten you, Peter, on this?
Yeah.
After I'd spoken to Ben Sturgeon at Spanner, I was really honoured to have yet another huge guest on the show. And this is someone I've admired for a long period of time. I think that the work that he started doing several years ago, it's like everything else, it's mushroomed, and it's very appropriate, I think, to the current day, because we're experiencing a tremendous epidemic at the moment of dog theft. And my guest that came on to talk to us about this is the one and only Dr. Daniel Allen of the campaign Pet Theft Reform.
Basically, an evidence-based campaign which is calling for pet theft to be a specific offence which has access to appropriate custodial sentences. So the problem at the moment is if people do get caught, which is very rare, 2019, 1% of all dog theft crimes led to going to court, generally got small fines, generally got suspended sentences. We want to make sure that there is a deterrent in place. We want to make sure there's a punishment. We also want to make sure the public is protected. So pet theft reform is targeting the Theft Act to change the sentencing guidelines to ensure that dog theft and pet theft more generally is taken more seriously.
To me, Dan is like he's like modern day Robin Hood. He rides through the glen of dog rescue, ruining every dog snatcher's life. I think no one does more to protect dogs than him from dog theft, and this is, as you will quite rightly understand, it's a huge problem in the UK at the moment, particularly so in lockdown. But Daniel has really led this campaign, Pet Theft Reform.
Dan is terrific. He's, again, a wonderful campaigner. He's amazingly committed. I think he has sort of grown into being a very, very precise campaigner over the last 10 years. I think, Mark, you and I sat on a panel with Dan about 9 years ago.
Yeah. So we were judging the ITV.
That's it.
amazing animal people or something. Remember when it was the one that Virginia McKenna gave that unbelievable speech off the cuff? Do you remember?
Absolutely. It was,
and no one could speak. They were so like, wow.
Yeah, sensational. I first met Dan there. Then he and I sort of became engaged at one point in a battle with a charity that I won't mention because I think they shouldn't be mentioned, that deal with the dog meat trade. And for about a year and a half, we were both caught in the kind of process of this very, very dubious charity. And we became great friends during that period of time. And we found that we shared almost identical feelings about so many things. We both were committed to the same things. So yes, I mean, I think he's a remarkable campaigner, remarkable fella, and I think he's done great work with this dog theft campaign that he's run. And yeah, he's fantastic, really terrific.
Dan is a proper academic. He's very evidence-based, which is exactly how it should be. And I think that's almost the frustration, that he has the solution, he has the evidence, yet there are still people sort of higher up the chain, if you like, that aren't listening enough. It's very similar to our campaigning. When you've got the solution and it's evidence-based and you're still struggling to make it happen. Dan's done 3 petitions. 3 100,000 e-petitions. It's not easy, the e-petition thing, to get 100,000, let alone 3. I think we're the only 2 people that have ever done it. But it's such a commitment. He doesn't stop. He is prepared to challenge on social media, which I rarely do because I find it too stressful. But he's just unbelievable. And he also is part of, obviously, Pet Theft Reform. He's part of the Stolen and Missing Pets Alliance, which I'm proud patron of. And obviously works very closely with Debbie Matthews, who's also brilliant. It's tireless, it's political, it's engaging with MPs and ministers. And I think, he's now part of the Pet Theft Task Force, which is a relatively new group of campaigners, police chiefs, MPs and ministers who are meeting regularly on Zoom to make progress. A testament to him that a campaigner has been invited to that top table, if you like. Yeah. Which never really happened in the olden days. So that in itself shows that he's very well regarded, very well respected, and his input is incredibly valuable. And I really wish him well with his campaign that we're all supporting, which is, for tougher sentencing, pet theft becoming a specific crime, a centralized database, because at the moment there's 15 different microchip databases, but also for vets to scan on first visit of pets, which I believe is actually one of the strongest potential deterrents for pet thieves. If they know that dog or cat is going to be scanned within days of it being sold on, then they're the next port of call in terms of any form of investigation. And why the Royal College or the BVA can't get their heads around that is mind-blowing. I'm a massive fan of Dan and his work. And again, I'll do anything to help what he's trying to achieve, which is, again, reuniting people with their stolen pets, which is not only a human issue, but it's removing the stress from that pet that's now with totally different people in totally different environments. So it is animal welfare, it's human welfare, and I think he'll do it. I'd be very surprised if the Pet Theft Task Force aren't successful, but it will be down to him.
Of all the subjects that I've covered in Doggy People, I think that the theft of a dog is certainly underrated by millions of people, because some people might think, well, it's just a dog that's been nicked, but to a dog owner, that is like having one of your family members kidnapped. It can affect a human being's mental health if they've lost a pet that they've had for so many years and it's so important to them. The fact that some horrible person has come along and just nicked it to make a few quid on the hoof is really totally unacceptable. And I for one, I think that the work Dan is doing is absolutely brilliant, and I think there should be a much tougher sentences for people who would think of making a quick buck by destroying not only a dog's life, but a human's life as well, and their mental well-being. So good luck, Dan. I'm sure that, as Mark said, if anyone can do it, you can. My next guest was really quite entertaining. I mean, I personally love her to bits. I think she's a phenomenal character. I'm talking about, my very good friend Annika Svenska of Animal Watch TV.
I just thought there'd be nothing more beautiful to film or to experience. I travelled up there and I met with the wolf experts. I went in there and I just knelt down with them. They all greeted me. We were in there for probably an hour and had a go howling with them, and they all just howled with me. And at the end of the trip, the people that have worked closely alongside these wolves turned around and they said, honestly, in the whole time we've known these wolves, maybe once we've seen someone else interact with them like you did.
Annika, if you're watching, we really appreciate everything that you do for All Dogs Matter, and in particular the fact that you raised a stunning £4,000 for the charity during the pandemic. So for that, we're eternally grateful, and we wish you all good luck in everything you do for Animal Watch TV. Annika, of course, is famous for being the wolf lady. She's utterly fearless. And I think that next foray is going to be deep down into the ocean. I don't know if she's going to hand wrestle some great white sharks, but she's an utterly amazing character. So if you can, please watch her channel. It is Animal Watch TV. My next guest was someone who I absolutely adored and had to have on the show. It's Paul Christian, an unsung hero of Miracle's mission and Protect All Wildlife.
Trolling through Twitter, I came across a post by the lovely Victoria Bryson of Miracle's mission, and I read into it, researched it, and the work that she was doing with disabled animals was amazing. Most vets don't see that they can have a decent life with a prosthetic, with wheelchairs. And you just have to look at the videos of the dogs run around happily with the prosthetics and the wheelchairs, and they can live as good a life as an able-bodied dog.
Now, I'm not sure if you are too familiar with the work that Paul's been doing with particularly Miracle's mission. I actually think it's stupendous because their work is focusing on rehabilitation of disabled dogs. And he's actually involved, their organization has just bought new premises, which they're going to open to the public, and it is exclusively to rehabilitate dogs that have suffered terrible accidents.
I'm not overly familiar with it, but I certainly know about it. And strangely enough, before we started speaking, I just tweeted a tweet for the Miracle Mission Centre for Disabled Animals. They have an auction of original art that's to raise funds for the Miri mission. And just literally, I had a message from Paul before we started talking. I admire very, very much the work he is doing. It's in a very, very specialist area, an area that is absolutely necessary, of course, because a lot of disabled animals get overlooked. So, I'm a huge fan of what I know of the work that he's doing, and I would, very happily support it.
I think you nailed it by saying unsung hero, really. And this Paul is a classic example of someone who, again, using the resources available, can make such a massive difference. And he's got so many followers on Twitter. He's so generous with his shares. I think the Miracle's mission is just a beautiful concept, and it's one that very, very few people would ever be prepared to take on and be that persistent and be that passionate about. He's just one of the nicest people I've ever met. He used to come to Pup Aid. He lives up in Yorkshire, and a lot of people don't realise he's also a care worker.
Yes.
So his whole life,
psychiatric nurse is what he is actually. Yeah.
His whole life is dedicated to caring. I mean, what can you say? Oh, he's just one of my favourite people. And it's so funny because he's so unassuming when you speak with him. And yet the work he does is just mind-blowing. So, I'm a big fan of Paul. And again, I'll do anything to help most people on your list, but he is a proper unsung hero. And, when you're leading a campaign or pushing an e-petition, you need those shares to, gain followers. And there's not one time where I've asked him and he hasn't done it. To really sum him up, really, he gets annoyed when I haven't sort of DM'd him with a petition to share. You know, he gets frustrated that I haven't DM'd him because sometimes he, obviously with that many followers, he misses stuff. He just can't help or care enough for humans and animals. And what can you say to someone like that? Amazing, very inspirational.
He's a beautiful, beautiful man, and
he is a
I had to
beautiful
have him
man,
on the show because he is typical of the unsung hero.
I was really happy when you had him on the show, Phil, because he's not a sort of an obvious, you know, he doesn't, you know, he's not a proper campaign in a sense, or runs a charity, but the stuff he does behind the scenes is, in terms of the resources he's had and the difference he makes, is absolutely massive. Yeah,
he's dealing with a specific aspect of dog welfare and dog rescue, dog rehabilitation. So, Paul, you are fantastic. And mind you, for some reason, he does like occasionally to dress up as an elephant. I don't know if you knew that. He does.
Yes, because I heard your interview.
In the park, and he jumps out of aeroplanes and all sorts of funny things. Why does he do this? We'll never know. It is actually, of course, to raise money for animals. So, Paul, good on you. He's also a bit of a connoisseur of red wine, as it happens. So when I actually get to see him, I know what to buy him. That's for sure. The drinks are on me, Paul. So that's the end of part 2. And once again, Peter Egan, Mark Abram, I think you're doing a sterling job. People are really getting to know you now. Now, you know what to do. Please get involved. Email me, tweet me, heckle me, whatever takes your fancy. Please, if you can, try and support any of the charities that have been featured on today's review show. That's it from me. Stay safe, love your dog, and I'll see you next week for the very final episode of this review show. Stay safe and bye-bye.